Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
That's right. I'm back. And hello again, my podcasting friends. Have you heard about this?
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Let's do it again.
I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Today we're going to talk a little bit more about radio. We're going to have a little history lesson today.
That's one small step for man.
I have the answer. Welcome to the Pat White Show. Let's get into it.
This is Sparta!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back into the Pat White Show for another element, if you will. We're going to talk about Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. Now, I realize he has dropped out of the presidential race, but he proposed something I thought was rather interesting, and his proposal was this: to drop the national income tax in favor of a single tax rate nationwide for everybody pays the same rate. Now, some would say, what? You can't do that. Why, that's going to mess everything up. Some people are going to win. Some people are going to lose. Yeah, that's true. The rich, obviously, they say, well, rich are going to benefit this thing because they're supposed to pay a higher tax. Folks, most rich people, well, with the exception of very, very few, because the billionaires at the top, they pay about 90% of all the taxes that exist in the United States. They pay that, yes. But many of them have found ways to get out of it with donations. I mean, do you think the rich people like Bill Gates and the owner of Amazon, you think they're really paying a whole lot of taxes? Yeah, they are, but they've got every deduction you could possibly think of. But flat tax, and everybody pays the same thing. I say it's 10%. Well, that's obviously, for a lot of people, that's lower. For some of the poor people who don't pay taxes, well, that's going to be hard on them because, well, they don't pay taxes in the first place. Well, if you're getting goodies from the United States and you're getting all sorts of things like Social Security and welfare and you're not paying any taxes because you're not making money, where's that money coming from? That money's coming from everybody else. So, DeSantis says flat tax, and other countries have done it, by the way. They have. Would that work out? Well, first thing is you'd be eliminating the IRS. Oh, gee, that doesn't sound like a bad idea at all to me. Eliminate the IRS. Yeah, that works. I can handle that. So would it save the country money? Probably. Would it put a lot of accountants out of business? Probably. But would it put the country on a better financial footing? That's something that people can argue about for as long as long. It's just something that DeSantis came up with, and I thought, well, he's not running for president anymore, but he is not the first person to advocate for a flat tax and doing away with the IRS single rate everybody pays. No deductions. Here's what you pay. Simple. You can do your tax return on a postcard. Pretty simple concept. Will it be adopted? Personally, I doubt it. Too many people would lose their jobs. And you don't want people to lose their jobs, do you? Nah, just a thought. Have yourself a pleasant tax day. Coming up next. Hey, this is Pat White for another segment of the Pat White Show. If you were watching TV on Sunday morning, and some people do and some people don't, you may have seen Maria Bartiromo on her Sunday Morning Future show interviewing Donald Trump. And it was a very interesting interview that I happened to watch. And one of the things that came out of that interview that really struck me as kind of, that may be a fact, is that Donald Trump said, we're going to have a terrorist attack 100%. And talking about an attack from China, from immigrants from China, and the Biden administration's lifting Trump's travel bans. Now, here, let me explain to you exactly what this is all about. Ever since Biden got in, he opened up the floodgates. Everybody knows that. I mean, let's be honest. Everybody's coming across, but all kinds of people are coming across. And I've witnessed some of this on TV, seeing some of these Chinese people coming in, and they're carrying roll-along suitcases. They're dressed impeccably. And they're young men. They're military-aged men wearing the nice suitcases, nice clothes, coming into the United States. And I'm thinking, what the heck's that all about? What's going on? Well, according to Bartiromo, She said Chinese are paying somewhere between $35,000 and $50,000 a head to enter the U.S. from our southern border in Mexico, and there's virtually all military-age men. That's up 1,100%. You heard me right, 1,100% over last year. But the question is, are they being directed by the Communist Party to come over here to the United States? That's a big question. And President Trump said, yes, I believe it is. I believe so. He said, and I believe we're going to have a terrorist attack, 100%. You know, during my term, I had no terrorist attacks, but he thinks one could happen. Now, I will tell you this. I've talked to a number of folks outside, and I've heard the same thing uttered by people. You know, I don't trust CNN because I just don't. That's just me. But CNN reported that immigration officials have picked up more than 31,000 people from China who are attempting to enter the U.S. 31,000. In 2022, the U.S. Border Patrol reported 27,756 operations encounters with Chinese citizens. And in 2023, that number rose from 27,000 to 52,700. That should concern you or anybody else. And now, the word is, would we have an internal terrorist attack on the United States? People smuggled in from China? I was worried when I saw them dragging their nice suitcases. They got 4 wheels on them. I mean, they were looking pretty cool, pretty swag set up. And now it's 52,700 in 2023. Something going on, folks? I don't know. I'm just saying. That's what came out of that interview with Maria Bartiromo on Sunday morning. Chinese immigrants, military age. Why are they here? Why are there satellite hot air balloons flying over the United States over very special military installations? You tell me. Why are certain things being hacked? You tell me. Something's going on. I just don't like what it is. I don't know what it is, but boy, it has some real bad earmarkings. Something may be coming. Coming up next. Hey, this is Pat White for another edition of the Pat White Show. In this particular element, we're going to be talking about New York City and what the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, is going to do for illegal migrants staying in hotels in New York City. Are you ready for this? All right, here goes. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, is going to start giving migrant families who are staying in hotels in New York City credit cards, prepaid credit cards. Well, he is going to give them what totals amount to $53 million worth of prepaid credit cards. Now, if you broke that down, that could be as much as $106,000 for each family. I'm hoping that's not going to be that way, but I don't know. But I do know this, the mayor's saying this will allow these illegals to purchase fresh food for their culturally relevant diets. So they can purchase fresh food that fits their diets where they're from. I don't know where they're from, couldn't tell you, but he's going to say, hey, you can get food for your own diet. Whatever you happen to like to eat, get that food. You're not part of America. We're just paying you to enjoy our hotels, enjoying everything else. And now we're going to give you a prepaid cash credit card so you can go out and buy your own stuff. You think that's going to work? I don't think so. But you know what? I'm not the mayor of New York, and I don't have thousands and thousands of people resting in my hotels, in my schools, in public conveyances, in airports, in subways, and every other single place that you could possibly imagine. Oh, and don't forget about the ones who escape New York. Okay? Those are the ones who use fake IDs to get on a bus to go to California so they could get California gold in California. Trouble is, we don't know if they're going to get to California or not. They may stop at a city like yours. Because, when they were in New York, they were a gang. They were a pickpocket gang in Times Square. That's how they got themselves busted. But then again, they can just beat up the police. And the district attorney in New York says, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I have no evidence to be able to charge them, notwithstanding the video that we all watched." No, that's not good enough. That, according to the DA, is not evidence. Really? Well, now you know. So now we're going to spend $53 million of taxpayers' money to give 500 illegals prepaid credit cards so they can go out and buy their own food matched up to their culture. Just my thoughts. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome for this edition of the Pat White Show. Today we're going to be talking about snipers, namely law officer snipers, LEOs, if you will, that are on the scene of situations where a sniper is required. And I'm going to tell you about one that happened down in Florida recently. It happened at a Chase bank. And it was one of those situations where, problem happens. Guy comes into a bank, robs the bank, pulls a knife out, and holds it to the neck of one of his hostages. So police are trying to negotiate with this guy at this Bank of America. I'm sorry if I said Chase. It's a Bank of America down in Florida. And it's a 36-year-old man. His name is Sterling Avalanche. He's got multiple felonies on his rap sheet. He's been to prison more than once. And so he went into this bank with the intent of robbing it. During the robbery, police got called, and police showed up on the scene, and he takes hostages. It's like something out of a movie, for crying out loud. But anyway, there he is with the hostages, and they're trying to negotiate with him because that's what police do. They try to get the person to, hey, put the gun down, put the knife down, whatever. Come on, let's get this thing taken care of. Get the thing ended peacefully. That's the goal. That's the plan. But a good police force, and I have seen this in police forces with my own eyes, they set up snipers. And these snipers get themselves positioned in distances away so they can get a clean shot at the perpetrator. And in this case, the perpetrator is holding a hostage, a she or he, him or her, whatever pronoun you want to use. The hostage is in front of them. That makes for a very much tougher shot, but I'm going to tell you this. Snipers, precision shooters, and I know I do this myself, we practice precision shooting. You go to a range and there's a target with a smaller target right next to it. The object is to hit that smaller target, not the bigger one, because the bigger one's the hostage. You hit the small one, take the small one out. You do that with rifles, you practice, because that's what you do. Police officers practice this stuff, and when they realized the perp, the bad guy, was locking his neck hold or the neck choke on this hostage, putting the knife to the hostage's throat, and threatening to kill the hostage, at that moment, all bets are off. At that moment, the command staff calls in and says, "Unleash the hounds. Let the snipers do their job." These snipers are trained. They know what they're doing. Snipers, one shot. Right there. Or possibly right here. Sniper is DOA, hostage is safe, the bank robbery is over. Now, what happens to the sniper? He or she, and yes, there are female snipers in case you didn't know this, he or she is put on administrative leave while they sort everything out and allow the sniper to regroup mentally. Because frankly, to tell you the truth, nobody really enjoys shooting someone. It's not something you want to do, but you got to get your head straight if you have to do it. That's how you're trained. So down in Florida, at a Bank of America, a sniper took out a bad guy who was threatening to kill his hostage with a knife at their throat. Not an easy job to do. You got to train for it. You got to be good. My hat's off to the men and women of the police force, and especially the snipers who train within the SWAT teams. That's all I got to say about that. Coming up next. Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Pat White Show. Another element today. We're going to be talking about the passing of a great country singer, Toby Keith. Now, we all know he's had a monstrous number of songs. He's had 21 number one songs. He's had countless albums. He's been country star, top 40 star. I mean, he's done everything. But I'm going to give you a little bit of background about him, maybe something you don't know about Toby Keith. His real name, well, his stage name is Toby Keith. His real name is Toby Keith Covell. He's 6'4". He's a big lad. He was born in 1961 in Clinton, Oklahoma. And ultimately, his family moved to a place called Moore, Oklahoma, which is outside of Oklahoma City. And as a youth, he used to spend his summers up in Fort Smith, Arkansas, at his grandma's place. She owned a thing called Billy Garner's Supper Club, where acts would come in and play. And that's where he kind of got the music bug. Those acts would be playing, and he'd sit up there. He got his first guitar when he was 8 years of age. Just started playing the guitar and seeing all these groups during the summertime at his grandma's house. Just got him hooked into this stuff. Well, ultimately, went back to Moore, Oklahoma, graduated from high school. Actually went to college for just a bit. He was going to be a petroleum engineer. Because when he graduated from high school, he started in the oil business as a derrick hand on an oil well. Now get this, 1979, 19 years old, right out of high school, he was earning $50,000 a year in 1979. That ain't bad. He blew it all, unfortunately, because he was young and stupid. He admits that. But he said, I learned a lesson right there. He said, after that happened, I learned I got to conserve my money. But he still was into music, had some bands, played and did some different things. And he just enjoyed playing. Well, eventually, he moved to Nashville. Somebody saw him singing, brought him into a big record label out, and he made an album, and it went big. It went real big. And he started his career. But a little bit about Toby Keith you don't know. He was a conservative Democrat. That's what he called himself. But he said, my party has gone weird. He said, I can't stand this anymore. So he said, I'm an independent. But he kind of worked both sides of the aisle. Yes, he did. He spoke at an Obama event. He was in favor of George W. Bush. I mean, he has worked both sides of it. He's given a medal by Donald Trump gave him a medal. So, I mean, he's worked both sides of the aisle, and he's done pretty well in doing all of that. But you know what? One of the things he did, and you probably heard about this, he got into a feud with the Dixie Chicks. And one of them was Natalie Maines, I believe her name was. And she was talking about his song, the Red, White, and Blue song. And she said that song is ignorant, makes country music sound ignorant. And because Natalie Maines spoke up about George W. Bush, she said she hated to be from Texas because that's the home of George W. Bush. So anyway, create a feud between her and Toby. And on his concert, he would win out a picture of her with Saddam Hussein, and it got ugly for a while. And then at the Academy of Country Music back in 2003, she came out in a T-shirt, and on the front it said F-U-T-K. Well, everybody figured out what that was talking about. Ultimately, the feud went away, and he said, wait a minute, we can't keep doing this. It don't work. So he quit the feud, but in 1984, he married a lady by the name of Tricia Lucas. Apparently, she had a child at that time. He adopted that child, and they ended up having 3 kids. Kids grew up. He's a grandfather. He was a homeboy. Took care of mama. That's what was important. And Tricia, who, by the way, designer outfits for women golfers. That's what she does. So she's kind of got her own career. Well, Toby Keith, ultimately, he was on a record label. He says, they're trying to turn me into a contemporary artist. He says, I'm a country guy. That's what I do. I write country songs. So he started up his own record label. And when he did, one of the first stars that he signed to his record label was a young 15-year-old young lady. You know who that young lady was who he signed to his label? Taylor Swift. That's right. Her first signing, first record was a record company owned by Toby Keith. That's a little bit on the background of him, and now you know. Yes, he was a great artist. I mean, he played in 11 USO show, played in front of 250,000 military people. He loved the military, but overall, he loved writing songs, talking about life and people. He was a country guy. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Pat White Show. Today, we're going to talk about, well, music and the military. Now, I know that seems kind of weird, music and the military, but believe it or not, a whole lot of stars actually served in the United States military. And I'm going to choose the country stars right now simply because those are the ones that are easiest for me to dig up. Yes, there have been rock and roll stars that served in the military, some not for very long periods of time for a number of reasons. But let me give you some country stars that served in the military. Let's start off with Conway Twitty. George Jones. George Jones was a Marine, for crying out loud. Then there was George Strait. And how about Jerry Reed? That's right, Jerry Reed. Yep, from Smokey and the Bandit. Jerry Reed served in the United States Army. Wonder if he learned anything there that went toward his singing career. And, of course, Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was in the United States Air Force. So look where it got Johnny Cash. And then, John Prine, Josh Grayson. And here's one. Now, this one kind of catches my attention only because he was a helicopter pilot in the United States Army and actually reached the rank of captain. And he became an actor. He was also a singer. None other than Chris Christopherson. That's right, Chris Christopherson was in the Army, became a captain, and was a helicopter pilot before he decided that, I think I'm going to be an actor. And then, of course, finally, one I want to get into is none other than Willie Nelson. That's right, Willie Nelson served in the United States military. He was ushered out of the military, they say, for a bad back. I'm kind of guessing that might have been what they said, but knowing Willie Nelson, that might not have been totally accurate. Just some of the people that I know served in the United States military in the country field of music. And you know what? That's just the tip of the iceberg. So many people in the recording industry and in the rock and roll and country and all the other brands of music gave time to their country and served. I'm proud of those folks because they did more than just sing. They served America. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another edition of the Pat White Show. We're going to be talking about what could be the demise of college football as we currently know it because two universities, one being Tennessee and the other being Virginia, have filed a court suit. And the court suit says that the NCAA's ruling involving name, identity, and likeness, or they call it NIL, and how it's being used in college football. And these teams, Tennessee and Virginia, are saying, hey, football is a business. Football is employer and employee. Employer, employee, and they should have a contract between the two individuals that allows them to pay whatever they choose to pay to that individual, akin to recruiting. Okay? So they're saying, no, we're going to use money to recruit these athletes to come to our particular school. And they have taken this all the way to court. And it's not going to affect just football. It's going to affect all the sports, football and basketball in particular, because now they're going to say, well, we're going to get the best players by offering them the most amount of money, which frankly, under the table has probably been going on for decades. So that's what's happening. And now the federal judges, and this could go all the way to the Supreme Court. They have to rule on whether Tennessee and Virginia can say, hey, NCAA, you don't control this anymore. It's unconstitutional. Athletes have a right to go wherever they choose to go, and schools have a right to pay them whatever they want to pay them to attract them to come to their school. Now, like I said, it's being done under the table. We all know it. But now it's going to be in the open, and the NCAA is going to be told, shut up, you can't penalize anybody for the recruiting. It's a money game. And obviously, some of the other teams without the big amount of money, like the big schools have and their supporters, aren't going to be able to contend, and they're going to get the biggest and the best athletes because they're going to pay them the most. And remember, with the NIL that we have now, players are making millions of dollars a year just on the agreement they have after they sign with a particular school. But the NIL stuff cannot be used beforehand, only after they sign with a school. So which school is going to give them the best NIL contract? Well, now Michigan and Virginia say, unconstitutional, folks. We should be able to use that to say, hey, here's how much we will pay you to play for our team. That's the way it's gone, folks. Welcome to college football, welcome to college basketball, and welcome to the world of the NCAA. May be a thing of the past if these universities have their way. The NIL is about money, folks. That's all it is. You want to play for someone? Give me the best money and I'll play for you. That's the game that's going on. Let's see how the courts rule that. That's all I got for today. See ya. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of the Pat White Show. We're going to be talking today about your retirement. And if you're old or getting older, or those of you that eventually will be getting old, and believe me, all of you will, I want to tell you about another place you could retire if you choose to, because by the time you retire, if you happen to be Generation X or whatever generation you happen to be, everybody talks about the Villages down in Florida near Orlando. Yes, Villages been around a long time. There's also ones from Del Webb. Yes, he does ones in different areas of the state. Also in Arizona, there's places out in Arizona if you want to retire there. But here's one for you. Walt Disney people, the Disney folks, have decided to create their own resort area for retired folks. That's right, a retired living center, Asteria, which is apparently named after a flower, the aster, down in North Carolina. Yes, the Disney company is expanding into North Carolina, building a development near Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. So if you all know where that is in North Carolina, I've been down there. And they're making it into a living complex. And it'll have everything that you can basically imagine in a community. It'll have everything you could possibly think of. Pools and community centers and about everything I guess you could plan on. It's going to have everything. It's a complete learning center for adults who are retiring. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because they're going to have wellness centers and recreation centers and restaurants and sport courts and swimming pools and gardens and outdoor areas for games and trips, all sorts of stuff. Same kind of stuff people, I guess, they have down in there in Florida and Orlando. And so everybody's going to have a place to live when they retire, only this is going to be a Disney project. So if you're thinking of retiring or when it comes up, if you don't want to live in the Villages, if you don't want to live in the Del Webb community in Arizona, wherever it happens to be, well, you can live in a Disney community in North Carolina, near Chapel Hill and Raleigh. And how much does it cost? I have no idea, but it's Disney. And hey, can't you afford a Disney dream? Maybe Snow White will be there, Seven Dwarfs, Pluto, Mickey, Minnie. I don't know who's going to be there, but it won't be the Villages from Florida. It'll be Disney. Just telling you what's going on. Now you know. Make your plans accordingly. See ya. Coming up next. Hello, everyone, and welcome into this edition of the Pat White Show. We're going to be talking about the Super Bowl because this is Super Bowl week, and I thought I'd give you some information about the Super Bowl and the National Football League and, frankly, sports in general. Some stuff for you to mull over. Did you realize that in 2023, the average price of a ticket for the NFL climbed 8.6%, which is a lot more than inflation, to $120. $120. It'll cost a family of four $631 to go to a game, to buy food, to buy souvenirs, and get a parking spot. $631. Not everybody can afford that. Now, Major League Baseball isn't much better because their rates increased about 3.5% to roughly $37 a game, which makes it cheaper. But it cost an average family of four $266 to attend a baseball game. Now, granted, there's more baseball games than there are football games, but it's still pretty expensive. Now, between 1999 and 2020, so you figure about 20 years, the admission price for tickets to football games, baseball games, has increased more than twice as fast as the Consumer Price Index. Now, why is that? Money. Simply put, the teams want to make more money. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're pushing the prices up, and you've got places like Ticketmaster and StubHub with all their algorithms, and they wait to see what people are doing. They push the prices up because they can. They know that there's people out there. And now you're not seeing, and this is something interesting, you're not seeing big stadiums. You know, you go up to Michigan, 100 and some thousand. You go to Ohio State, 100 and some thousand. Huge stadiums for college, but not for the NFL. Their stadiums average somewhere between 65 and 70,000, thereabouts. And the reason for that is so they can charge you more because they're interested in making a whole lot of money. Now, something else you may not be aware of, but the teams have to share the regular season seats. So you have regular seats for a game for this stadium, regular seats for another stadium. Well, they share all of that. Okay, that's that share they're going. But the money from the super seats, the suites, okay, now that's the premium seats and the super suites. Each team gets to keep that money they keep and do not share. That's why they raise the price of the suites so high, because the teams are making more and more money off of that. That's where the big bucks are being made. So when you think about it, all right, it's sports. But some teams out there are saying, we got to make our tickets less scarce. And here's one of the things. It used to be, if a team didn't have all their tickets sold, they would drop prices when they get closer to the game because they're worried they're going to have empty seats. Now they don't care. Now they don't do that because they realize that fans know that if tickets aren't sold toward the end, people are going to drop the prices. The leagues have said, no, not going to do it. You know what they do? They cover the seats with tarps. I've seen them do it. You've seen them do it. They take away upper decks of stadiums and say, no, we're not selling the 300-seat stadium. We're not selling them, only the lower seats. Oakland did that, by the way. Oakland closed off the upper deck and said, only the lower deck, made the seats more expensive. What happened? Oakland moved to Las Vegas. That's what's going on. So just so you understand, everything is getting more expensive, but in professional sports, it's a lot more expensive than the average individual pays. Just something you need to know if you're thinking about going to a game. Probably not the Super Bowl, because who on earth can afford that? Hello, everyone, and welcome into today's edition of the Pat White Show. We are discussing once again the Super Bowl and how much it's going to cost. Well, it turns out that a lady by the name of Olympia Kupalo, I believe it is, or Kopo, she has purchased a suite for Christian McCaffrey's mother. Apparently wanted to see her son play and didn't want to spend the money for tickets, the $11,000 or whatever it is that it cost you to buy a ticket to the Super Bowl. Nay, she bought her a suite. Which got me to thinking, wonder how much suites cost to the Super Bowl? So I did some digging, and here's the skinny for you to take a look at. Well, if you need a tiny suite, 4 people, 4 tickets, including a food and alcoholic beverage package, it's called the Premium Loge. Premium Loge, I think, is up in the 300-seat area. It's high up. You need binoculars to see down. That's going to be a measly $300,000 for 4 people. Well, that's pretty expensive price for a ticket. Now, say you want to spend a little bit more. Okay, how about the Premium Loge? A little lower. You get 8 tickets to this deal. You get a food package, and it's only going to cost you about $420,000 to watch a football game for 3 hours. Or, here's the better one. How about the Owner's Club Suite? Now, this is not the owner's box, but the owners have their club seats. And these are separate editions. And here's the bonanza, okay? If you're going to have a party, this is the party to have. Here's what you get for the Owner's Club Suite. You get 20 tickets. Okay, 20 tickets. That doesn't sound too bad. Invite all my friends. You get 2 parking passes, because everybody's forgot about what it's going to cost you to park at the Super Bowl. And apparently that's about as expensive as getting a ticket to the doggone place. And, of course, you get your food and beverage package included. All for, are you ready? All for the phenomenal price of only $2.5 million. That's right. Get your own place to watch the football game with 20 friends and 2 parking passes for a mere $2.5 million. Yep, I tell you, I think I'm going to be calling those folks and ordering me up a suite so we can all go out and see the Super Bowl. Yeah, right. You know what? I'm going to be sitting at home with a bag of Cheetos. That's what I'm going to be doing. $2.5 million. And this woman buys mom a suite? Give me a break. Gee, I wonder if Taylor Swift has to pay for any of her suite. Just a thought. Hello, everyone, and welcome back into the Pat White Show because, well, this week is Super Bowl week. That's right. Everybody's talking about the Super Bowl, what's going to be going on, what's going to be happening. And the biggest thing in Las Vegas happens to be the bathrooms. That's right. That's the biggest thing going on this year at the Super Bowl in the brand new stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's the bathrooms. And before the stadium opened, and I'm telling you, this amazed me. Before the stadium opened, they had a bunch of folks inside the stadium where there are 297 bathrooms. Okay, you got that number right? 297 bathrooms. Now, here's what they did all at once. Now, you could imagine setting this up, having people throughout the stadium in 297 bathrooms standing next to toilets and urinals, 1,430 toilets and urinals. So you got to have 1,430 people standing next to the urinals and the toilets, getting ready, and right on the cue, the exact moment, whoever was running the rodeo said, flush. Yep, that's what they did. They did a test flush of the toilets and the urinals in the Las Vegas stadium in 297 bathrooms. Because you see, that's the biggest thing they're concerned about. Because when you go to a football game or a baseball game or any particular sporting events, the biggest thing most people are concerned about are the bathrooms. And I remember when I used to go to the Notre Dame football games, you'd go to the men's bathroom. There was a trough. It wasn't individual urinals. It was a big, giant trough. Now, I don't know if Notre Dame still has those. This goes back into the 80s. But that's a big friction point for people is the bathrooms. And they want to have something that's really nice. So the way they got this figured out is they have one bathroom, one lavatory, they call it, for every 120 men and one lavatory for every 60 women because women, take longer, that's what it is. So they're very concerned. So the big story this year at the Super Bowl is not necessarily the teams. Yeah, they're playing. We understand that. But it's just how are the bathrooms going to be? And anybody who's taken their wife or their girlfriend or their children to a game knows exactly what I'm talking about. So the big concern today in the National Football League and Major League Baseball is the female client, because you've got to take care of them. And that means having better bathrooms and potty parity. Really. I ain't making this stuff up. Restrooms are the main thing, and they've had to reimagine the public restroom for all the new stadiums coming online. I know that doesn't seem important to you now, but you go to a game, you take the wife, you take the kids, girlfriend, whatever, you know exactly what I'm talking about because it's going to happen. More information from America's best bathrooms right here on The Pat White Show. And you thought I didn't cover everything. I do. Hello, everyone, and welcome back into today's edition of The Pat White Show. The Super Bowl is upon us very soon, and CBS is pulling out the stops to show you more stuff from more angles than anything you've ever seen, including the all-new Doink Cam. That's right, they're going to put cameras, miniature cameras, on the goalposts of the end zone, on the left, the right, the center, so you can see actually every field goal that comes up, including ones that may just end up hitting the goalpost, or the Doink Cam, if you will. More cameras than anyone has ever seen at any one particular football game, for the Super Bowl is coming up. Imagine that, 6 Doink Cams? Hundreds of different cameras from hundreds of different angles, including drones, sky cams, you name it, they're going to have everything. And I got to tell you, it's going to be something to behold. What amazes me is how many people they're going to have to use to put on this presentation. And can you imagine being the director sitting in the truck, calling which camera to use, which camera to shoot, from the vast array of shots that he or she will be looking at? It should be a very interesting game, but personally, I want to see the camera angles. I want to see the cut shots. I want to see the overheads. I want to see everything they've got, because the Super Bowl is truly a production monster. And Vegas, what goes on in Vegas is going to stay in Vegas, but this year, the Super Bowl is going to be one big, giant event. Hello, everyone, and here's another edition of the Pat White Show, and this week we are talking about none other than the Super Bowl. Well, because the Super Bowl is coming up, it's the biggest thing that America seems to have nowadays, and everybody tunes in. Millions of people, millions and millions of people around the world tune in to watch the game and to see the game itself. You know, you got the 49ers, and you've got Kansas City, and of course, Kansas City has Taylor Swift, and I'm sure that's going to account for gosh knows how many millions more people watching to see if her beau scores a touchdown, so CBS can flash shots of her up in the booth, or up there in the owner's suite, or wherever she happens to be sitting, cheering on her boyfriend. Okay, fine. But here's the bigger question. Who's going to be the halftime show? Well, if you didn't know, allow me to introduce you to Usher. Yes, Usher, the R&B artist, is going to be the halftime show and probably playing some of his best songs. I do not know what his best songs are. Not a fan, sorry. He may have some additional guests he'll bring in. It's happened before. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. But Usher is going to be the halftime, and then 12 to 15 minutes a halftime show? So yes, he's going to be out there doing his thing. What we have last year was Rihanna, I think we had last year. Well, anyway, but who's going to be singing the national anthem? You see, now that to me is important. Well, turns out a Hall of Famer from the country music industry is going to be singing the national anthem. And I, for one, say, great. Who's it going to be? Reba McEntire. That's right, Reba is going to be singing the national anthem. And then she'll be joined by Post Malone in singing America the Beautiful, and Andra Day singing Lift Every Voice and Sing. I got no problem with that. I think that's perfectly fine. I'm willing to live with that. Now, people are saying, well, is Taylor Swift going to perform? No. Why should she? She ain't getting paid to do that. But she's going to be there, so I'm sure half the audience is probably going to be there just to watch her, not the football game. Oh, and by the way, a Keystone, I believe that's how it's pronounced, and I could be wrong, will be in the Super Bowl. It's its first DJ ever, a DJ at the Super Bowl. And he's going to be doing the pregame. He's going to be doing player warm-ups and several breaks during the game. You will have a DJ rocking the Super Bowl scene. Sorry, folks. It is becoming a zoo. But then again, it's happening in Vegas. And you know what they say? What goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. Maybe this is one of those events. That's all I got. See ya. Hello, everyone, and welcome into another segment of the Pat White Show. Today, we're going to be discussing airplanes, because I know a little bit about airplanes since I flew them for a long time. And Taylor Swift. I mean, hey, you got to talk about Taylor Swift, right? She flies around on airplanes. Well, much talk has been about, well, can she make it from her tour in Tokyo? Can she make it all the way back to Las Vegas so she can see her beau play football? Well, I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff because that's all been conjectured and it doesn't matter. Let's talk about the airplanes that Taylor Swift has in her inventory. When she was flying around the United States, that's from, LA to New York, that particular area, she was flying around in a Dassault Falcon 900. Nice aircraft, I'll give you that. It's a 3-engine aircraft. It's powered by Allied TFE 731s, I believe it is, engines. Not very powerful. They're 4,600 pounds of thrust, each one. But it's fine. It works really well. She can hold about 18 passengers, crew of 2. It works quite well in the United States because its range is about 4,600 miles. So you can go from sea to shining sea and not have to gas up. She can do the whole thing and fly around the country all she wants. Plane worked well. Well, she has since gotten rid of that airplane and sold it to another company, another limited company, wherever it is, Missouri. And she's now flying in her second plane, which is a Dassault 7X. Now you're going to say, well, 900, what's the difference? Well, the 7X is an intercontinental aircraft. Now what that means is flies over the ocean. It's a bigger aircraft. It's got 3 engines, but these engines are Pratt & Whitney's, and they create 6,450 pounds of thrust as compared to the 4,600 pounds for her, the one she was flying. More powerful engines. 3 engines, holds a lot of people, crew of 2, I think it's like 19 passengers. It's designed to fly over the pond. Whether you're going over the Pacific, over the Atlantic, it's a transcontinental airplane. And that range of that airplane is 6,000 miles. So the one she was flying was like 4,600. The 9X, or the 7X, the 7X has a range of 6,000 miles. That's why she's flying in that airplane. Now, both of those airplanes, we're talking $30, $40 million. Ain't cheap, but she's got a whole lot of money anyway. Who cares? So now you know what airplane she's flying. And is she interested in flying in a commercial? No, because there's so many nutcases out there that want to track her down and see what she's doing. As a matter of fact, she was involved with the situation of a student at the University of Central Florida who was tracking her flights and doxing her. And others were doing it too, saying, oh, she's flying right here. She's going from here to there, because he was following and intercepting her aircraft on his transponder. You got a machine you could buy, and it's I don't remember the brand of it in the name of it, but it's a machine that you can follow the transponder, which is a code that all airplanes give out. Every airplane gives out a transponder code, okay? Just so you know. He had a machine that could read that transponder code. There's nothing wrong with that. That's legal. Everybody in the air traffic control business, that's how they follow people. Well, this clown was apparently following a lot of people and saying she's here, she's starting it here, she's going to this place. Her attorney sent a letter, a cease and desist to the gentleman, and said, hey, quit doing that. You're creating a bad situation. You keep it going, we're going to sue you because you're putting her life into danger. He said, hey, it's public stuff. She's out there. She can fly commercial. Well, once again, there's a problem. So, ultimately, he did the same thing. This college student, did the same thing to the folks in other places, other celebrities. Okay? He has doxed all kinds of people, including some very, very rich people, including the owner of Tesla, if you will, Elon Musk. He was offered $5,000 to go away. He said, no, I'll take 10 times that. So he was in it for the money. So this is what's going on with these stars. Yes, they have their own airplanes. Yes, they fly around. And there's people who track them to say, oh, she's going here, he's going there. And that's what they do. It's unfortunate, but it is public information. Can a lawsuit be done? Probably it can. Will it go anywhere? I don't know. But now you know a little bit about airplanes, a little bit know about doxing, you know a little bit about, well, falcons and what they do and how far they can fly. Background information. You may never use it, but now you know a little bit more than you knew when you first came into the show. That's all I got for right now. See ya. Hey everyone, this is Pat White from The Pat White Show, and I want to tell you about a special guest we have coming up real soon, the Queen. That's right, Queen Diane is going to join us on The Pat White Show to discuss past, what we did, some of the guests we had, some of the fun stuff that we enjoyed over the years when we were broadcasting at 50,000 watt WOWO. If you have a question for us about a particular show, what we did, just drop us a line at patwhiteshow@gmail.com. That's patwhiteshow@gmail.com. And who knows, you might hear your question read on the air. Well, that does it for today's edition of the Pat White Show. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure to follow us on social media for the latest Pat White Show for all the news and updates. And stay tuned for brand new episodes of the Pat White Show coming real soon. Like what you're hearing? Make sure you don't miss an episode by following The Pat White Show on Spotify. Just search for The Pat White Show, hit follow, and get ready for insightful conversations delivered straight to your Spotify feed. If you enjoy watching podcasts as much as listening to them, good news! The Pat White Show is also on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel now for visual content, behind-the-scenes footage, and full podcast experience. Find us on YouTube at the Pat White Show channel.